Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Daily AI Show. It is Monday, December 8th, 2025. We appreciate y'all being here. Sorry for a little bit of the delay getting live, but as we've been talking about on the show a bit, we were transferring back to a very popular podcast platform called StreamYard. We actually started our show in StreamYard and moved away for various reasons over the last 2 plus years. And well, now we're back because we're having issues on the other one. But as things go, there's always technical challenges, and we were having echoes and things like that. So Beth is on mute because she's fixing some stuff on her side. But today we have Beth, Andy, and I'm Brian. We appreciate y'all being here, or everybody being here. Let's see. All right, I can see Cisco's comment. All right, fantastic. We're actually seeing some comments in here as well. Hey, it's a Monday. We knew there'd be some technical challenges as we got going, but we appreciate everybody being there. And lo and behold, I could actually put comments. So hopefully onwards and upwards from here. But anyway, like I said, today is December 8th. We're not in January yet. December 8th, 2025. If this is the first time you're checking us out, hey, we appreciate you. We've been growing quite a bit, especially on Spotify, but also on YouTube as well this year. So welcome. We do this 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. This is episode 611. And as we like to say, we have not missed a Monday through Friday yet since starting. So we have quite a streak going with no intention of stopping, which means as we get into the holiday season here, you can expect to have a live episode, even if it's Christmas Day. Even if it's New Year's Day, two of us, at least, that's our bare minimum, will be here to do a show. We don't promise that it'll be an hour long, but we will be here. We will be here live. So that should be the fun of it. Okay. Yeah, Cisco saying I'm jumping the gun and already ahead of the curve. Yeah, Cisco, I know. I'll get it here. It's a little disorienting as we get into this new system. So new old system. Anyway. That's behind the scenes. Y'all don't really care about that. You guys care about AI and what's going on in the world. And as we usually do, we start off with some of the news, usually with a weekend that's gone by. There's a little bit more of it. I will say this weekend, not as much that I saw. Maybe Andy or Beth, you will disagree with me. And there was a lot of news that you saw pop out, but sometimes the weekends can be like a lot of stuff comes out, and there's a lot to catch up on Mondays. This one weirdly feels a little slower to me. It seems to be more of like the types of stories we've already heard about. One that I wanted to bring up that I'll just kind of kick things off here, and then Andy, I'll throw it to you, and then Beth, you can kind of just let us know when you're ready on your side, perhaps. But Andy, one of the ones I saw was, this is a story that we've seen quite a bit, right? Which is Perplexity or other AI providers being sued. This time the news is coming around. I thought this had already happened, but at least it's on TechCrunch. New York Times is suing Perplexity for copyright infringement. So this is definitely not the first time we've seen something like this. Oftentimes where these end up playing out is in some sort of formal agreement between how New York Times is used. A lot of times these things don't actually go to trial, or at least I don't believe I've seen one go to trial yet. So I'm not sure, Andy, if this is like just playing the game at this point. New York Times ultimately knows what the outcome of this is going to be. Perplexity ultimately knows what the outcome of this is going to be. It's going to all kind of get settled. But nonetheless, they are getting sued. Now, this comes 5 days after, I want to say it was, the Chicago Tribune also filed the suit this week. So we've seen this. Now, there's not a lot of precedence based on what TechCrunch is saying and what I've read otherwise. There's not a lot of precedence for this actually going through, but I still think what we're ultimately doing here is we're jockeying for position. New York Times wants to make sure they're getting paid where they feel like they should be getting paid. Perplexity is going to say, okay, there's going to be some sort of agreement. And this is going to, like, the dominoes are going to kind of fall as all this sort of gets new and shuffled, much like what we're seeing in the music world, right? With Sunos and Udios and Warner Brothers Studios. And, so anyway, I don't, Beth, jump in, obviously. I'm not excluding you, but I'm not sure if the mic is there yet. But Andy, what do you think on this as far as seeing these lawsuits kind of roll through?
I don't have much to add. I think you captured it well. It reminds me of the Trumpian approach of, suing media companies in order to get them to pay up and get in line. And this is the other direction. It's the media companies suing the AI companies to make sure that they get into an agreed structure.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. And we're not echoing.
Even
So the first thing I want to say to people who are watching on YouTube, if you're only seeing Brian Amai's chin and the top of Andy's head, go out and pick the live version that doesn't have the little phone icon on it. And if you're watching on your phone and you're only seeing that, terribly sorry. We will fix that next time. But that is what you're going to see right now. But I'm in live on YouTube in the other setting, and I can see all of our faces. To go back to the Perplexity story, if you remember, we noticed in the very beginning that we were getting access to Paywalled content.
Yeah.
And that, I believe, is the reason for this lawsuit. I think they did shut down the Paywalled content, but we had access to it for a while. And it sounds like, based on the lawsuit, even if we're not getting the actual Paywalled content, like we can go and see the actual article, I think we're still getting answers based on some of those, or have been in until a certain period of time, and that's still a problem and suable. That's what I think is happening.
Here's the tricky part, and why I think it'd be terribly hard to win against Perplexity. And by the way, I'm not claiming that Perplexity or ChatGPT or any of them are correct for what they're doing, because at the end of the day, somebody isn't getting paid for the work they did, and that's wrong. So it needs to be figured out. People need to be paid for their creative works and stuff, whether multimodal, right? I don't, whatever that is. But I know that I read articles all the time. I know. I know. If you're watching on the vertical, I can get down there, and Beth and I can squeeze. Andy can go up. Sorry, yes, we will fix that by tomorrow. That is a feature. It's a new thing with StreamYard, and that's on us. What I was going to say is, I know that I see articles all the time that are say somewhere on there originally posted on such and such, and I'm not sure what the agreements there are, but you will often see that, like, maybe I don't want to call out TechCrunch, but let's just say TechCrunch says, like, whatever, it's a whole article, it comes up in my Google feed, but it'll somewhere in there say something like originally issued or posted on AP News, and it's being reused. And they obviously have agreements to do that. I don't think somebody's literally just grabbing it for free or would. I think there's agreements between these big companies or whatever, these big websites, I suppose. So to your point, Beth, I wonder how that even works, because yes, there's gated content, but sometimes that content is also, Wall Street Journal is correctly reused somewhere else that Wall Street Journal has somehow agreed to. Yes, it was gated there, but I mean, this is what happens because they have agreements somewhere else. And so now Perplexity grabs it from somewhere else or simply scrapes. And you got to go, well, unless Wall Street Journal is saying, hey, we can ask questions. And the only place that exists is behind a gated paywall and, smoking gun.
Right.
Which may be the case. I'm not sure, but it just seems very difficult to me to isolate, unless it only exists in one and only one place on the internet, which is just so rare these days.
Well, we also see that other countries have different copyright laws, right? Japan, one of the reasons that the Ghibli viral thing that happened when OpenAI came out with the image model that could generate that, one of the reasons that was possible is because Japan doesn't have the same kind of copyright, if I remember that correctly. And I noticed that I'm getting a lot of the Times of India as a source when I search something. And it seems to me that the Times of India is republishing other articles that are paywalled in the US. And so I think that we're just going to see more of this, but I don't know where it's going to land.
Yeah.
Because also, if I share a gift link on a public site, does that, I mean, I'm sure in the small print it says, if you're a search engine, you don't get to scrape this and do all the things. But it just sounds like this is a bigger problem than the pre-internet AI able to scrape everything in like 3 seconds. I just don't think that this is a problem that they've figured out.
100% agreed. All right, well, let's move on. Either Beth or I know you're back around now. So like Beth or Andy, what's another news story you sort of saw pop up over the weekend or that's of interest to you?
I want to talk about hardware. So Beth and I both ordered the Limitless pendant. I think that's right, Beth. I don't know if you got yours, but I never got mine because I ordered the color that it wasn't going to be produced until 2026. Well, I'm SOL on the pendant. And so are all the people who bought the pendant, because Limitless, the company that was Rewind and then became named Limitless, has just been acquired by Meta. So Zuckerberg has acquired them, and the team primarily. The pendant, by the way, was something that was listening, 24/7 and could remember and record and transcribe your real world conversations. And then you would have access to that information with an AI assistant. So you could go and say, well, what did Brian say 5 minutes ago about the such and such? And it'll repeat it back to you. Or that's the promise. I have no idea whether that worked well or not. But let me stop and just ask Beth, did you get your pendant?
No, and this is not one of the ones that I bought. So, no, I'm out of luck in all kinds of ways.
Okay, so anyway, I don't know what's going to happen to my payment, but I think they're probably going to refund it because they're not going to proceed with deliveries of those pendants, though they're going to support the existing pendants for 1 year. The team now is going to focus instead on Meta's existing AR, augmented reality, and AI wearables rather than launching their own new products. So it was an acqui-hire, but it basically wipes out the whole product line that was Limitless. Although Meta might provide something that's similar in order to compete more directly with what will come out from OpenAI with Johnny Ive and this, mysterious, non-glasses. We're pretty sure it's not glasses. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that I finally got the thing that I got suckered into because they're named after me. And these are the holiday glasses.
Oh, cool.
They finally came. So now, this is a lesson in just, how not to make mistakes when you're buying things. So I was excited because it has, as you might be able to see here. Okay, I'm going to hold this in a way that people on the live stream can actually see these glasses. They're really nicely made. Yeah. And they have, speakers in the what do you call the thing on the side of the glasses? The stems. There's stems. And there's this little thing up here that projects a little circular monochrome green display into your eye. And it works. I can actually see and read in this little circular thing in there. But now let me tell you what the experience is of using these things. So I can speak to the AI assistant and it will type back into the display, but it won't talk back to me. And so all it can do is type like 6 or 7 words. That's all that can fit into the display. That's the limit of the response. And in most cases, when you ask it a complex question, if you wanted its assistance in a real way, if you're wearing these things around in the real world, then it would say, sorry, I can't respond to that kind of question. And that's why I'm like, what can you do? What are you useful for? And it was not able to go through that. I'm sorry, I can't answer that kind of question. But of course, other AI systems, Perplexity and GenSpark, can hoover up all the reviews. And here's what the key findings from reviews about the holiday glasses are. That short story is these things are useless. Like the reason you haven't heard about them is that nobody's finding any utility out of this particular design, largely because it does not support audio interaction with the AI assistant. You can't talk to an AI. And the only AI you can speak to and get a text response back, which is really lame, the only one is the one provided by Halliday. So you can't connect this, even though it's connected to your phone. You can't talk to ChatGPT. You can't talk to Gemini. It is absolutely a brick alongside my now favorite other brick, which is the rabbit. Okay, so I've got the holiday glasses and the rabbit. Let this be a lesson to you all. Don't bother buying things until they prove themselves in the real world. I'll happily continue to make these mistakes for you, but don't.
I think you need, Jimmy has like a cool shelving behind him, and he's got some cool uplighting. I mean, I think eventually, Andy, we're gonna need some shelving, some cool uplighting, and over the years, they'll be like, oh, there's the holiday glasses. Oh, and people think you're really just keep doing it. Andy, is what I'm trying to say. Is at some point you'll have some really retro stuff on your thing, and people will think you're super cool for it. So,
if there had even been a small group of people who found some usefulness out of this thing, then it might have some value on eBay as a collectible one day in the future. Yeah. But I doubt that in this case.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, weirder things have happened because you don't, that company may pivot, end up doing great things, and then so who knows? I mean, the real move here is just literally let him collect dust until some future state. Or whatever, because you have a better chance of holding on to them. I would be curious, and we can move on to, Beth, your news and stuff, but I would be curious to use the Wayback Machine, the website, the Wayback Machine, so you could look at historical websites and look and see what the copy was on, if it was scraped on the Holiday Glasses site. I remember it, and what you just described does not line up with what I remember reading on their website, which, okay, you should know what you're getting into with, these types of products or whatever, anybody that bought the Hume pin and stuff like that. But it seems deceiving, to say the least. It seems like a bait and switch, to say the least. So I'd be curious to line up what you just said with what I remember seeing on the site, because maybe it was all there and maybe I was filling in the line, filling in the...
I feel the same way. I feel like there was an inflated promise about what that particular configuration and design was going to deliver, because it had all the things. It has the sound. And by the way, the one application that you can use is you can play music from your phone into those, but it's like, the reviews say it's like so tinny, you wouldn't want to listen to it. They're not good headphones.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that's one of the, it's wild, because that's one of the promises of the glasses, is it's close enough to your face that you can do audio conversation, right? Like even if the glass in your glasses isn't going to be a monitor and show you things, which there was news over the weekend or last week that Amazon is coming out with glasses for their drivers that will show them things.
We saw
and
that, yeah.
Like, I want to know that you've tested it a ton. Like, I don't want my Amazon drivers like learning on the fly how to not pay attention, but pay attention to whatever just flashed on their eyeball. Like, sorry, not eyeball. It's not contacts. It's glasses. Anyway.
Their thing was more of a heads-up display like you would see in a car with like turn-by-turn directions and stuff. So I think...
But it's still on your glasses.
Yeah, but but it's already, you can have heads up display on your projected reverse on your windshield. So,
but for me, that's more like you're already paying attention to everything around the car when you're doing it. You're seeing the heads up display. If my eyes are like, oh, there's something really important I have to look at here. If I just cross my eyes on video, terribly sorry. But I feel like I won't be looking at the road anymore. I'll be looking closer to my what's directly on my face.
I mean, you have a good point, Beth, but I do wonder what the trade-off is, because I also am now not looking down at my phone for the Google turn-by-turn directions or some other screen. So I'm no longer diverting my eyes from the road, which I'd imagine is the whole idea. But to your point, is that better if my focus is like, an inch? Am I, and is that better if I'm still going to run into the car in front of us? I don't have the answer to any of this. As usual, we just pose the question from the problems and move on. But I wanted to say real quick, Gwen did definitely, she was saying definitely a bait and switch when it comes to the holidays. So yeah, we'll have to see on that.
By the way, the holiday glasses, because of that projection thing, they don't require that you overlay that visual, on the scene that you're looking. So you'll be driving along with the holiday glasses on, but in order to look at the little green circle, you have to look up. I'd have to go like,
yeah.
You have to look up, and that's one of the challenges and comments in the reviews about the holiday glasses that are out there, is that it requires you to roll your eyes up and to the right. By the way, it's like I look up or to the right repeatedly. Imagine you're in a conversation with someone and you keep going like that. Or they say one of the ways you can use it is you could create a document and then have it kind of scroll there like a teleprompter.
Right.
No way. Like,
yeah,
there's no way, because there's the navigation to scroll is here, or it's on a ring that you think, and it doesn't work. It's like I keep rubbing, and it's like,
I love that this keeps getting worse the more you describe it. Like, nothing you said has made me go, oh, well, there's that. Like, everything you said has been like.
And what amazes me is that what happened to user testing? Like, where were the user testers who weren't just going, wait, this is not ready for prime time?
Well, I'm sure they were, but I'm sure they didn't care. Unfortunately, that's the problem with it, is that it was just perhaps ship and make money on it or whatever. It sucks. I mean,
I doubt they made money on that. There was an enormous investment in the manufacturing pipeline for doing something, because it's really well built. I mean, but the combination of features is inadequate for any practical use, in my view.
Right. Okay, so I want to say one more thing about the Limitless pendant. If you are listening to us from the UK, you need to download your data before December 19th. Because they're canceling you. So if you didn't get the email, or however they did this, Meta's not playing with the privacy laws. Like, nope.
Yeah.
You other people get free Limitless service for a year, and then that's gonna sundown. But you guys are sundowning sooner. So go and make sure you do that. Also, if you're only seeing our chins and forehead on YouTube on the live stream, go ahead and get out and choose the live stream that doesn't have the little phone icon in the title. We're fixing that, but not today, because we're on tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a Tuesday problem. Sorry, guys. We apologize.
Okay, so one of the things that I thought was exciting was Poetic with a Q came out and announced that they had wiped the floor with the new ARC 2 test, if we remember that. And they did it for much cheaper. So basically what they did was it's not a new trained model. It's a way of using the model that involves recursive analysis and improving the answer. And DeepThink Gemini came out with a high score, and they did it, I think, for trying to find the money. Poetic did it for $37 per answer, and that's significantly lower than whatever DeepThink was charging, or how much it cost for DeepThink to do it. And that is exciting because, first of all, it's open source. The repo is in the announcement. You can go and load it yourself, put your own API keys in, and see what kind of results you get. And also that it is a meta system for reasoning, and that more and more we're seeing that it's not that you have to just shove more gazillions of dollars into training to get better results. Now we have some stuff on the back end which involves less hoovering of data or creating synthetic data, less energy, because energy, the inference energy so far still is lower than the training energy. That will flip maybe as usage goes up. but these are like good results or good indications that we're going to be able to get higher levels of AI without needing to do that order of magnitude thing, right? Which was 10,000, 100,000, a million, 10 million, right? We were just looking at those zeros in training and getting better and better results.
Yeah, I'd like to just add that this meta system that Poetic has, it's kind of blown the ARC AGI 2 competition open with, is leveraging an existing winner in the ARC AGI 2 competition, which is Gemini 3 Pro and Gemini 3 Pro Thinking. And what it does is it does some kind of magic on the back end that adapts to that model and then refines it in a way that is inexpensive, but dramatically improves the performance. So the people at Google are probably going, wait, what?
Right.
We've just spent, all this time getting to that level. And then we put it out and you can take our model and make it go that much better. Wow.
Right.
So,
and the announcement being, we wipe the floor of you with you.
Yes.
Right? Like, look out, Google, because we're coming after you release.
But the good news there is that this shows that some kind of system, I'm going to dig into it and try to figure out what Poetic is doing there, but some kind of orchestration of actions with that model make it possible for it to very inexpensively produce much better reasoning results on the toughest exam out there, which is AGI 2.
Right. And the thing that I read, the summary that I read said, if we remember 6 months ago, the scores that they were getting were 5%, right? And first of all, it's the second test because the OpenAI model did the first test, right? So we had that was actually last year during maybe during Shipmas. So this is the second test that was created to be the harder test, and these new results are over 50% when 6 months ago they were 5%.
We're making it. Despite the limitations of LLMs, we are making substantial progress towards artificial general intelligence. But there's at the same time a whole cadre of people out there saying there's a ceiling on what LLMs can do in this respect, and we have to move forward with neurosymbolic or some other combination of systems that's going to get us there. But there doesn't seem to be any. It's a glass ceiling. Let's put it that way. You can break through it with other techniques, but there's a glass ceiling for this class of models. And then it'll be some other, architectural approach that will, in combination with LLMs, get us, into, the stratosphere here, and very quickly. Like, I don't expect to, be tottering around with a cane by the time we get to AGI, although there are some who say it's still a decade away.
Well, but the glass ceiling is like where we are right now is still a new frontier. We're just starting to see the models that have been fully trained as multimodal, right? Gemini 3 Pro had such a leap, and also Nano Banana. And I really think that's part of the reason for that is that it was given a multimodal diet to train on, not a language model diet, and then introduced to the concepts of the other modes. And I think what just came out from China was also that, but I feel like we're still in the very beginning of those, and that we're going to see a lot. Like we may be under a glass ceiling, but I don't think we're going to be bored. I don't think we're looking at the ceiling. I think we're still like, wow, all this stuff in this room. Let's figure it out.
I just shared the display of ARC AGI 2, just show it up there, just to put a graphic picture of where Poetic came out on top of Opus 4.5 Thinking, right below it at around 38% or something. And then Gemini 3 DeepThink at 47, I think it was, and then Poetic taking Gemini 3 and getting up to 54%.
Yep. Very cool.
I want to weave off of, since we're talking about models, I don't think there's a ton to talk about here. It's things we already know, but there's an article that came out, again, TechCrunch, saying ChatGPT's user growth has slowed, report finds. Now, ChatGPT is doing just fine. They still account for 50% of global downloads on mobile and 55% of the global monthly active users. However, TechCrunch is saying Gemini has begun to outpace ChatGPT in terms of download growth of monthly active users, and growth of time spent in app, the firm found. The firm was Sensor Tower, was the intelligence firm that did this research. So are we shocked or surprised to hear this? No, because of just how successful Gemini has been. In fact, I have a little segment to do today that's about gems and things like that. But the other side of this story, and either it will be a success or a failure. I know that's silly, right? I'm giving you the two obvious answers, but what I mean by that is,
Ryan will be always
you're
correct.
right, Ryan. You're right. I'm going to agree. There's no dispute about that.
Sometimes you say stuff and then you go, I want to take that back. I'd like to take back what I just said. I will talk about.
Your co-hosts are here to help capture that as a permanent member.
Appreciate that. You could have let it go. You could have let it go by, but no, you decided to jump on. No, in all seriousness, here's what I think, guys. Here's what I think. 5.2, if it comes out tomorrow, is either going to be a resounding success or failure. I'd like to put that down in the canon of the show. And the reason I say that, the reason I'm so certain about one of those two, is because I think they're Gareth is laughing in the comments. Is what I wanted to say about it is, look, Code Red, right? They did the whole thing, the memo, we heard about that, what Sam Altman said. Man, there's a lot riding on this. And maybe the general public doesn't care. I mean, honestly, maybe this is just a bubble thing, right? Like the people in the AI bubble, all our folks listening in the in the comments and things like that. But they just really released 5.1, and although we did see some improvements in some areas, I still don't think remarkably people are like, "Hey, this is wholeheartedly the best ChatGPT," when you still have people going, I don't know, I kind of liked 4.0 a lot, like, did we need to do this 5 thing? And so 5.1 felt more like a fix, like a patch, than it did some upgrade. And now we're going to have this 5.2. I honestly feel like they would be better to just go away from the name 5.2, but I don't think that'll necessarily happen. But this is like allegedly, supposedly it's going to come out tomorrow, and it's going to bridge the gap closer to where Gemini is. Maybe not. I'm not sure. It really depends on what they're doing with this 5.2. I've said this enough times on the show, but the reality is, to me, and this is just my opinion, Gemini fundamentally looks and feels different. And so it's not about another patch. Another patch on ChatGPT, to me at least, would not get you to Gemini. You would have to have done something different. And there just hasn't been enough time. So we all know that these big players, I don't know if say they have models that they're sitting on. We know that we don't know what they have going on internally. And then because of red teaming, because of all sorts of reasons, that they have the next evolutions, but all of them do. I mean, they're, whatever's after Gemini 3 Pro, right, is around, but it has to go through extensive testing and all these things and whatever. And so anyway, I say that to say, like, if this is a rush job by OpenAI, I think they have more to lose than if they just stayed quiet to the new year. Like, the Gemini thing is happening, right? Like, it's like people are seeing that and they're getting success with it, or it's at least some people feel they are. There's really nothing else, I guess, that's happening right now. So if they rush this and it's not great, I think you have more to lose. This kind of goes back to the whole ship mist conversation we had last Monday, which is like, is it better to release stuff at this point if you're OpenAI? Listen, I don't know the answer. Obviously, I guess we'll wait and see what comes out if it comes out tomorrow. But it's a difficult position to be in, I would think, if you're OpenAI.
Let me Let me just quickly respond to what Gareth just said, which is OpenAI is going ads first. Well, actually, they've shut down their shopping ads. One of the news items today is that they had some Target related, hey, shop at Target kind of thing, and there was so much blowback from ChatGPT users that they decided to shut that down right away. And they also recently, just late last week, announced that they were deferring the development of ads in order to focus on improving their models because of the code red situation.
Yeah. I also think, Brian, for their coming out with this as a push, we have to remember that OpenAI is headed by Sam Altman, and one of the main jobs for Sam is to make sure that the story is something that funders want to fund.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that's in many ways what he's chasing, right? They want to do an IPO or whatever they're going to do in 2026 with the new format of their business. And they're always he's always pounding the pavement for money, I think.
Yeah. He's good at it. You know, he's good at it. And, so is Dario. And, look, they're talking about Dario, Anthropic going for an IPO next year, and they've hired law firms that have done this before for big companies. And so I'm not sure what OpenAI's plan is for that in 2026, if they both will try to do that. But I agree with you, Beth. I mean, at the end of the day, I agree with you that there's a bigger story. There's a bigger narrative arc here. And also this goes into play. We hear these stories. We report on the news about $100 billion, promised to NVIDIA to do yada, yada. Well, guess what? That check has not cleared. That's not as if NVIDIA is sitting on $100 billion investment or even potential partial payment of this. So again, we hear this stuff in the news and you go, oh, yeah, Stargate and all that stuff or whatever. And a lot of times it does end up just being news. It's like just so that they stay in the conversation. And maybe to your point, Beth, hey, 5.2 keeps us in the conversation. It means there's more news cycles happening about OpenAI, and that's ultimately good for our investors and getting the next seed round or whatever we need to build our data centers to get to where we need to be. And that may be enough, and that is what it is. And anyway, one last for me, real quick news story, and we might have touched on this last week. Is it's like maybe not AI, but the big news story that came out, I think it was Friday, about Netflix acquiring Warner Brothers for $83 billion. That's not a specific AI story, so I don't want to hold on it too much. It's a very interesting one because of they're going to stay separate, but obviously this gives you more of that Disney Plus idea of, I can watch Marvel, I can watch National Geographic on Disney Plus, whatever. And so Netflix is starting to feel a little bit more like that with its Warner Brothers catalog, which would include things like TV shows like Friends, but also major movies like Harry Potter, right? So there's definitely a lot to be gained. I think the AI narrative, though, is we know that Netflix is working more and more and more towards having little bits and pieces and parts of AI. I think that's just honestly testing the water. We're really just not that far away from fully created AI cinema and things like that, but it's going to be like in little incremental steps to like warm people up to it, to the point where it's CGI animation over traditional animation, and people are going to kind of shrug their shoulders and go, I mean, I was entertained, and that's kind of what matters to me if I'm on Netflix. Amanda and I just literally watched Jay Kelly, the movie on Netflix, which I don't believe has any AI in it, or if it does or doesn't, but we watched the movie last night. Amanda goes, it's nice to watch like a not middle of the road. Like, we both enjoyed the movie. It was different, and it was on Netflix, and it was an original Netflix movie, and we both kind of were like, yeah, it's kind of nice not to just get like mediocre movies, like that. The bar is kind of dropped on Netflix as far as like the quality. Sometimes, yes, they have the Stranger Things and things like that are hits, but their movies sometimes that they put out can be kind of feel like B movies back from the day, the Towering Inferno type movies, fun to watch, but nobody is like claiming that they're Oscar worthy or anything close to that, So anyway, I think there's a through line here with AI that will feed into like maybe the Warner Brothers through Netflix. Maybe all of them were trying to do it. There's not really a story about that. But when I saw this acquisition, the first thing I thought about, thinking of things through a AI, point of view was, oh, I'm curious how this will affect not only Netflix, but Warner Brothers, but then also, famously, there's been alterations to the original Star Wars and stuff, which is not Warner Brothers. But I say that to say, Lucas would go in and go, let's change that, and then like that becomes the new version of the Star Wars, or, Solo shot first, Han Solo shot first is a big thing, or whatever. Right. And I wonder if that will eke its way into old Harry Potter movies or whatever, so anyway, I don't have any news on that. I don't want to go into more because it's not so much a news story beyond the acquisition. Obviously, it's still got to get cleared. So there's certainly some legal hurdles that would have to happen for this to all go through. But I mean, it's not a nothing deal. That's for sure.
No.
Yeah, I have one quick comment on this, and then I have a small news story that I want to share. And then we can go on to the gem thing that I'm excited to hear what you're talking about.
Yep.
So when a studio is acquired or merges into another studio, what you're really acquiring is the intellectual property library that they have. And now the value of that is actually increased because people are interested in those historical and, known characters that are the intellectual property of the studios. And the fluff that's coming out from the new content that's being generated in Netflix series and so on, it's not the same level as, say the Disney library of incredible intellectual property. So AI makes it possible to really blow out intellectual property. You can really inexpensively build on top of a library that's acquired that way. So the valuation numbers have gone way up on the quality of the intellectual property because of the leverage, the sort of exploitation leverage that AI represents.
Yeah.
Again, my news item. There are browsers out there that you can use that are agentic. They will do things for you. Anything that you can do in the browser, they can do. And that's a whole new model of agents that is being played out. And one of the problems with those agent browsers is that they're vulnerable to prompt injection, meaning if a website has some hidden information in there, it's interpreted as a prompt by the browser, it can be hijacked or jailbroken, so to speak, and do some things like give up all of your information, all your credit cards and all that other sort of thing. So Perplexity has one of the most capable agentic browsers. It's called Comet. And what they just launched is a new technology called BrowseSafe that blocks 91% of prompt injection attacks in their browser agent. So they're making progress to make these things more secure. That's been one of the reasons that I haven't used them, but a small reason compared to. And here's my other hardware announcement: is I have to finally bite the bullet, and I'm going to buy. Scottish though I may be, I'm going to put out the money for a new MacBook M4 Pro, so that I can actually use the Comet browser. Both of my machines that I work with on a daily basis are from 2017. So that's now 9 years old. And that's the Scottish part of me that I try to wring the very last bits of productivity out of any one of these machines. But by the end of December, I will have my new MacBook Pro running these things.
Very cool. Anything left for you, Beth? Otherwise, I'll jump into the gems. Yeah.
No?
So look, I don't even have a show and tell per se, but I just wanted to bring this up to people because I like to give people more ideas on how they can expand what they're doing. So this really only applies if you're using Google Docs, if you're using Sheets or slides. I couldn't think of what I was in PowerPoints, slides or docs, obviously, right? Things like this. Well, one of the things I noticed like a couple weeks ago, certainly isn't like a new news thing, is that, you have your Gemini sidebar that comes up, or you can pull up your Gemini sidebar if you're in that document. Well, What that also means, and I didn't know this until I happened upon it, was that you can call in gems. Okay. Well, about a month ago or so, I wouldn't even be talking about this because gems just really weren't they were on par, but not necessarily anything amazing in terms of comparable to custom GPTs. They could do a lot, but they were what they were. Obviously, Gemini 3 has changed a lot of that. I talked about that. And like 2 weeks ago, I talked about building the gem builder, right? So I built a gem to help me build other gems. Well, an easy thing to do here is use something like that, the gem builder, or just build your own gems, however you want to do it. By the way, you can go to our community if you want to get access to the gem builder and the prompting I used to create it. So you can go create your own version. That's in the community. That's the dailyAIShowCommunity.com. That'll take you to our Slack community sign up, and you can go back and find it. It's in there from like 2 weeks ago. So there you go. You have something to help you build gems, even if you don't know how to do that. But here's what I want to talk about. If you sat down with literally a blank Google Doc or a piece of paper and a pen, you could probably come up with 20 to 30 ways that gems could help you with slides, Excel sheets, docs, or whatever. And so that's what I've started doing more or less internally with Scaled. I'll give you 2 quick examples that I'm going to actually show my team today. I have a bit of a show and tell later with my internal team at Scaled. And so one of the ways to do that is that I switched over a while ago from Zoom, which I hated anyway, to Google Meet. And so I use Google Meet for all my meetings through Scaled. And it's 99% not a problem. Every once in a while, you have somebody who just has an issue logging in. It's like not enough, though, for it to be an issue with any of my clients. And I've been testing this now for a while. Just me, though. This hasn't been a mandate for the rest of Scaled. Most of my coworkers still use Zoom. Well, I liked Google because, number one, it was high def, like literally looked high def instead of that graininess that I always see on Zoom, and that bothered me. And number two, as soon as I'm done with that meeting, yes, I know there's all sorts of plugins that do this, but I am in my Google Drive all the time for Scaled. So as soon as I'm done with that meeting, and it processes both the video, the transcript, and the transcript summary, which the transcript and the transcript summary are in the same document, are labeled based on what I named it on the Google Calendar, and they're put in the same folder. Beautiful, right? Well, now take that one step further. I can now take those transcripts, just like we've been doing for a long time, but create yourself a gem that creates follow-up emails from those transcripts, that summarizes from you, that maybe turns that transcript into, the next 7 LinkedIn posts you're going to, but it doesn't really matter. What I'm saying is you can just make that gem call directly into that document by just using it on the sidebar. Traditionally, we would have pulled the document into the gem. Well, now the gems sit inside the documents and all the other Google things. So I don't have to do that. I'm literally in the document I'm working on. I call the gem in and I say, go do this thing that I just built you to go do. And what does it do? It goes da 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 da, and it writes the whole follow-up email, action items, potential blockers, dates we talked about. I just literally did this with the last 2 or 3 call transcripts I had with clients, and takes care of all that. Then you go insert, and it just immediately puts it into the document, or I could have created a new tab, or I could have simply copied it into an email, into Gmail, or whatever. That's one use case. Another big use case for me, I often get times I have to build complex knowledge documents to become the brains of the gems and the custom GPTs and AI agents that I'm building for clients. That's usually step one. You guys know that. Our folks listening know that. You got to have something that's viable as the knowledge that's on the backside. And in my case, it needs to be organized in a certain way. Nothing crazy. It just needs to be in a good outline format. H1, H2 headers. I haven't found an AI that can't read that quickly. It understands markdown methods. So that's the H1, H2, bullet points, sub-bullet points, numbered stuff, right? It gets it. So I continue to put things in a nice organized way. And it's helpful because anybody can go look at that document. We've all been writing outlines since we were in grade school. And so anybody can go look at that and go, yep, that's a subset of this. Yep, I get it, right? It's just visually easy to follow in text format. Okay, so what's my pain? I oftentimes get PDFs and PowerPoints that are image and graphic heavy because some marketing department has created something for my client, in their marketing department, and it looks beautiful, but it's almost useless for what I need it for knowledge. Case in point, I will tell you even today, even Gemini still has trouble with this. If you take a simple slide that's not even graphic heavy and you have stuff that's on the left and on the right, and then there's subset information or images in there with text, the AI doesn't necessarily understand that the right one comes after the left one, even though it's a top-down left to right type reading style. I have PDFs right now that have 6 boxes on one slide. So I created a gem that is a faithful transcript reproduction. And that's key because Gemini will do summaries of what's in those boxes. Don't need that. I need exactly what the client gave me, not my interpretation of it. I need literally what's on the slide. But it is very time intensive for me to have to go through there and pull that information out. I've always been able to go to ChatGPT and say, here's the document. Let's go line by line and do this. I don't have to. I literally pull up the PDF now inside of Google Docs, like it's the preview. In the preview, I open up my sidebar for Gemini. I go to my gem and I say, do slide 1. And it goes all the way down, gives me an outline, and then I can just copy that and put it wherever I need it to. It says, it'll even tell me export to a new Google Doc, and I can take care of it right there. Or I could have just added it to a tab or whatever the case is. These are just 2 of probably 20 to 30 simple solutions where you're actively working on the document. Now, I will tell you, just as something I've learned from it, is be careful when you're using anything like Canvas. The gem builder I have will oftentimes say, do you want this outputted in a certain format? Should I put this in a Canvas? Because no doubt about it, it looks better. The sidebar gem version will not output in Canvas. And that kind of makes sense, right? You're in the sidebar, so you're going to see it call the JavaScript for Canvas and fail. That's what's going to happen. That's okay, though. If you use the gem builder that I built, or if you do it differently, you can make that optional. Gemini's smart enough to understand that it'll toggle between them, and it will just output it in the format there. So you actually don't even have to give up on one. If you're using the gem in Gemini and you div it a document, it's going to give you a nice output in Canvas, which is better. But if I'm in the document and I'm using the gem on the sidebar, that's not going to work. And it's okay. Canvas or a Gemini is able to go, yeah, in this gem, I get it. If I don't see that, then I'm not going to use that as the option, which is pretty intelligent if you think about it. So I want people to start thinking sort of cool, easy use case ideas. And this is really the big difference. I mean, obviously Microsoft with what they're doing is very similar, but this is the big divide between a ChatGPT and an OpenAI and a Google right now, is that there is no doc version of ChatGPT. There is no doc version of slides and even if they built one tomorrow, would it become the standard the way both Microsoft, 365 and Google Doc and Drive are, or Google Workspace? I don't think so. So we're already seeing what they're doing in Workspace Studio that Andy kind of broke, but last week, and I'm still trying to get access to. I still don't have access. I had it in the AI Studio part, but not the full production. That's going to allow us to link gems to gems and start creating more agents, which also means we're going to be able to do that inside the sidebars. So we're going from having to be in some other system where we pull documents to it, and now we can just work where we already are. And that allows us to do all sorts of great automations, because if I use the gem and I do my transcript that I created, well, then I can have something kick off in an N8N workflow or a make workflow and grab that transcript and send it over here and send it into Slack and all the things. But I think it makes sense that you can work on these directly inside the documents or the types of file they are, just from a productivity hack, honestly. So go create the gems. They're so I mean, if you use the builder I use, it'll be the easiest thing you ever did. And they're I'm not touting my own. Go in the community and go get it or make it better if you want. I gave you the actual prompting for it in XML. Go do what you want with it. My point is, it will walk you through the steps to build a really good first generation gem, and it'll help you red team and even check it first, and then deploy it. Then just go test it inside one of these docs. So that's what I had to share today, because I just think this is something that could be helpful to a lot of people immediately. Let me just look in the comments here. What do you do with stuff after the gem? Why not just have the gem? What are you doing after the gem? Gemitize it. Well, I'm putting it. Greg is asking that. I'm putting it right back in the document, Greg. So I already have a document. It's going to have to live somewhere. Sometimes that stuff might go to a Gmail or something like that. But oftentimes I'm working through Asana, just in our use case, which is a project management tool. And so I need these updates to also go into Asana. And if I'm using the gem in the document, to me at least, it's easier just to have that transcript, get what I need, create the update, and then have Asana go grab the update and make that the new update for working on the client. And you could do that through API calls.
And this is also meeting your clients where they are, right? They're already using the document tool, the slide tool. You don't need to explain how you take something out, go to this other system, work with it there, and then bring it back. This is like great. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah. And I guarantee you, I'll be building a whole suite of these for my clients. I guarantee it'll happen. I guarantee you, I'll have like, just like our custom GPTs, I'll probably have 10 or 20 where I'll go to my client and go, do you just want me to deploy these gems for you?
Yeah.
Easy.
So I love the idea of the gems being accessible directly from the Google document or a Google sheet. But I just tried that in mine, and I have an individual workspace account. I don't know whether you have something different, but I said, can I create a gem and call it to do a function in this doc? It said, I was unable to find information about a feature called a gem. But
we have to remember that none of this is trained on its abilities. What it can do now is not in its training data. It's giving you the probable answer.
So it could be that I could do that, but I just can't get Gemini to tell me that I can do that because it hasn't been trained on that.
Or how?
So how do you call a gem from within a document?
It's the right sidebar and then Gemini. It's Gemini, right? Yep. And then there's the hamburger menu at the top, and you can actually pull. For me, it's in the upper left of that sidebar. Yep. And then you could actually, if you have gems, I have like 30 gems that are.
It says view all gems, and I have some gems there, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, and then you just click on that gem.
Yep.
Okay. And then that gem, if it's been instructed to do something with a document when it's called, it'll then be invoked to do that process within the document.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically that gem is just simply using the context of your knowledge document is the file you're working on. So it's going to pull that into context.
And they have some pre-made gems that are relevant to that. So for example, thanks for this guidance because I haven't used it yet. In a doc, it has a writing editor. So you can actually click on that, and that gem will then kind of give you advice on, improving the form of your document. Brainstormer, copy creator, sales pitch ideator. So they have a nice suite of gems. You don't have to go build your own to get some utility out of using this within Google Docs.
Right. And that's kind of like your basic Gemini, right? But then just if you did go the one step farther and build the gem, and in that gem, it has knowledge about your company or your writing style or your preferred email style, writing guides, or use active versus passive verbs, or whatever it is that you want to do for your, terminology for your company, whatever, like I do with our clients and I do for Scaled. Well, then you are actually invoking a gem that has knowledge about your company. It is now a custom tailored to your company gem that you're invoking into that document, which just levels it up. So yes, writing guides and all that, those are great. But then if I can go one step further and go, well, Scaled, not just Brian, but Scaled has some requirements, or my clients have some requirements about what is or is not okay to do for branding, style, and stuff like that. Well, okay, no problem. I can just build that into the gem. And anytime the gem is being used, it's going to go, I can only write in this way. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't know, just one of those easy sort of things. I think this is more or so the future of it. I've been building more and more gems. I'm going to tell my whole team about it today when I'm on the call with them. So, more to come on all this, but I know we're kind of on time here. Just one last time, apologies for seeing chins. If you're still seeing chins, or just Andy's. Yes, Andy's way there. There's a new setup in StreamYard that allows us to do do both types in just YouTube, but obviously we didn't set it up right, so it's not organizing our squares, if you, or our rectangles correctly. And so we'll work on that. That should be all taken care of by tomorrow. So if anybody's watching this and they're like, they never fix it or whatever, we understand it'll be fixed tomorrow. Sorry for the inconvenience, but just adjusting to a new system here. But anyway, all right. Well, that's it. I think, Beth, if I just hit end stream, it should just do our outro video, I believe, right? We'll see. Well, we should be doing with after shows, but I guess we'll find out here. They should be a thing in the past, though. All right. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow for another great show. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.